Hi everyone, Chad here with Pulse One with another Tech Talk, and super excited to have my friend Jason Melo here, co-founder with TouchBrick. Jason, thanks for joining my Tech Talk.
Thanks for having me, Chad. Really excited.
Been in AI, TouchBrick is dealing with everything to do with data security within AI for businesses, data twins, synthetic data. But before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about your origin story. How did you get to where you're at?
I was, one of those guys who started my first company in my dorm room in college. And at the time, we were, basically trying to build e-commerce platforms because they didn't exist. Everyone was trying to build custom stores for people, and there wasn't really a Shopify at the time. Ended up getting a lot of big customers through that. So, Disney, Research in Motion, and made BlackBerry, and a bunch of other companies like that did all their e-commerce through us. So that prompted me to drop out of college and pursue that company. So we ended up selling that company to another company in Silicon Valley at the time. That brought me out to California, where I just really got involved in more and more startups and just the tech scene. I'm a CTO by practice. That's always been kind of my fulcrum in the industry. So I've spent time in a number of different industries. So did financial services in New York and in California, building a lot of kind of high frequency trading platforms, trade execution platforms, getting into a lot of capital markets activity. That's what ended up bringing me into crypto and blockchain, where I was co-founder of Paxos, and we also created the first ever regulated crypto exchange in the world. And so from there, I ended up spending a lot of time. I went to ADP, where they were able to kind of entice me with this offer, starting a startup within an enterprise like ADP. We built an amazing organization that ended up becoming the next generation platform for ADP, dealing with like all things HR and payroll, kind of everything that ADP does. But that's really relevant for TouchBrick and what we're doing today, because that's really where I got involved with data at scale, right? If you can imagine kind of, ADP's data set and also the sensitive nature, the kind of personally sensitive nature, healthcare data, all of that ADP holds. One of my kind of initiatives there was to bring ADP onto the public cloud. Like, so how does a company like ADP actually go onto AWS and do it securely, privately, safely, all of those things? And, to this day, you never see ADP in the news with a headline about a data breach. And it's because we did things there the right way, and the team there continues to do things there the right way. And so that's really where I cut my teeth on data privacy, and what really matters to the enterprise. So along with that, I ended up doing a lot of work in AI and machine learning, and really understanding like what the opportunity is with data when it comes to AI, which really is everything. After that, I ended up being co-founder of what became the largest enterprise tax company that was AI driven. So we were basically doing the taxes for companies like Intuit. So, you do your taxes with TurboTax, they do their taxes with us, is what we always like to say, in kind of large enterprises like that. So that was a pure machine learning AI play in terms of what we did there. Exited that company after about 4 or 5 years and founded TouchBrick, which is all about AI data privacy and security.
Awesome. Now, you guys, when we got to know each other, and how we were introduced to you was with data or synthetic data,
Yeah.
where you're taking companies. The problem is organizations, companies want to use AI, but they can't put their data in an LLM, ChatGPT or Grok, because then everyone has access to their data. And so you guys created a system um, to be able to use their data with an LLM, but it's secure. Tell us a little bit more how a company can, working with TouchBrick, use their data with an LLM and be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So yeah, and it all, it really does come down to synthetic data and what our kind of key innovation was with looking at synthetic data and what it actually could be used for, right? We've seen in the world now all the great uses of synthetic data, right? Running simulations, training, data models or training models where we don't have enough information to actually create like a representative set of data, right? And so synthetic data was, really kind of, pioneered to solve those problems, right? When you don't have data, let's look at an example data set and basically extrapolate out, create a whole bunch of fake data, essentially, that we can use to leverage. That has kind of pros and cons to it. And it's a wonderful kind of space in terms of doing that. But what we did was we looked at synthetic data and said, well, wait a minute. If we already can classify and categorize data based on kind of where we come from is we base it on data privacy frameworks, right? Regulatory frameworks. So think PII, HIPAA, the Healthcare Information Privacy Act, GDPR in Europe, in the European Union, that's protecting people's data rights, CCPA in California, which is very similar to GDPR. Because we train our technology on those regulatory frameworks, we're already able to label sensitive data. We know that, hey, this is data about a person. This is their geographic information. This is some other indicative information. Maybe it's a credit card number. Or when we're dealing with educational customers, they're dealing with the Child Online Protection Act, right? This is information about a minor, about a child. So our platform, our technology starts there, and it has the ability through AI to really identify and categorize that sensitive information. What we then do with that is we say that, look, what a lot of companies, they are in a similar kind of space, and they're trying to solve a similar problem. They approach it from the perspective of let's strip that information out. Like let's make sure that that data never goes in. We keep things safe. Hey, that's great. Well, it is great from a core data protection perspective, but where it's terrible is from a user experience perspective, and where we want our AI and all these great tools to be fully accurate, to give us great results, and to not be kind of missing puzzle pieces in order to solve the whole puzzle, right? And so our kind of core innovation in that space was the invention of what we call the data twin. And the data twin is effectively an identical stand-in, an identical synthetic replacement for sensitive information. And what that means at kind of a lower level is that whether it's demographics or geographics or other kinds of like statistical relevance, our data twins are effectively identical in that way. So when it comes to reporting, it comes to language models, the data twin is going to give you the same results as if you put in the actual sensitive data itself. The difference is you're not compromising any sensitive data. It's not indicative of anything real, but yet your results are still at a 99% plus accuracy versus putting in the actual data.
So for total layman, can you give us an example?
So I'll give you kind of two examples, right? We work with companies both like mostly and kind of before we get into that new product that we were talking about, right? But we work with companies that are bringing their data sets to bear in AI scenarios, right? Maybe they're enabling their products with AI. They have, customer products that they're putting out in the market, and they're trying to bring their data to bear to build AI solutions. So they're pulling in structured data, right? Their databases. So maybe it's their CRM, maybe it's other kinds of like ERP or other kind of organizational databases, or they're pulling in unstructured data, right? Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and PDFs and everything they might have like in their Google Drive or a OneDrive location. What then TouchBrick does is it sits there as essentially a secure gateway between all of your company's data sources and the language models or the AI APIs that they want to leverage. That might be doing things like creating RAG pipelines, retrieval augmented generation, where you're bringing your own data and combining that with a trained language model so that you get results that know about your company, know about your data and your information. A lot of companies are loading in their entire like email archive so that you can see all the emails you've ever sent to customers and all of that information. Well, if you do that, say without TouchBrick, then now all of that sensitive data, whether it's about your customer or about your employees, is streaming into these AI platforms. And whether they're in-house or they're third-party cloud hosted, doesn't really matter, right? Because if the third party hosted, well, that data now can be shared with, kind of the rest of the world. If they're internal, well, especially if you have a company that's like larger than like 20 people, you don't want your information being shared with everyone else in the company, right? Whether that's salary, it's healthcare issues or whatnot, all these things that companies have about you, that's all now compromised into that system so that you can use AI. So in a more kind of like concrete example, you want to be able to bring your, last year's sales information and all that customer information into the model so you can produce results. You need to produce like your quarterly customer analysis report or something like that, right? Where TouchBrick and the data twins come in is that now all of that customer information, all the sensitive information that was in there about that, and then all the employee data, all of that gets replaced with data twins, right? And so you still get the same report, that same analysis still comes out and it's accurate, but none of that sensitive data actually went into the model or into the whole kind of ecosystem of data around the model.
It's awesome. Yeah, super helpful. Now, talk to me about what the new evolution that you're doing, where you're extending AI to the end users. End users in all companies right now are testing out Grok or ChatGPT, and they're most likely putting in spreadsheets or sensitive data to build reports to help them with their day-to-day job. But again, that's you know causing issues for companies, data leakage, data breaches. So yeah, your new technology sounds amazing. We're helping solve that problem. Talk us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. It's and it's really like an extension of what we're doing kind of in the like back end or in the cloud for organizations. It's exactly that. It's recognizing that, yeah, sure, data can come into AI systems from all of our databases and file locations, but the largest kind of input of data into an AI, a generative AI platform, are the end users, right? And even if a company tries to set up, well, hey, this is like a blessed and approved, AI system, or we've built this wrapper around ChatGPT, and so we can maybe control things or at least see what people are entering in and out. That's just not the reality, right? The reality is that we used to have shadow IT, now we have shadow AI, right? And shadow AI is where like I'm just going straight to Claude or I'm going straight to like Gemini and I'm putting in my search because I like that experience better, right? So employees are doing this day in and day out. So recognizing that is kind of really the main vector of data threat for an organization, and also too for them personally, right? Users all the time will put in their own personal sensitive information, either because they trust or they're not aware, but whatever the reasons are, we wanted to say, look, let's bring that same ability and that same protection to the end user, and especially to professional end users, right, that are in a company, right? And so where we've extended TouchBrick is to basically, allow users to install it on their machine. They barely even know that it's there, but it knows what are all of the interfaces and interactions with generative AI today. So whether you're using things like Copilot, you're a developer building a cursor, or you're just going to, like we were saying before, ChatGPT or Claude because you have a question or whatnot. Now, as an end user, if you want to attach that customer spreadsheet to your AI because you need to produce a report or you're typing in that information, and a lot of it has either sensitive information, company secrets, intellectual property, all of that now is able to leverage the power of our data twins, where data twin stand-ins are basically being replaced for anything deemed sensitive or intellectual property by that company for their end users. And that's all that then those models are seeing are the data twins and not your actual data. But the real kind of the really great user experience around this is that as an end user, when your results come back to you, it's got your original data in it. You're seeing it on your side and your pane of glass and never leaving that boundary, that sensitive data that you were working with. So you don't have to then reason with, well, what was the replacement? Oh, it replaced this for that. And you need to do that whole mapping in your head. That we knew that that was never going to fly for the end user. So for them, they barely even know that it exists. And that's the real power of it and what we're so excited about. And it opens up a whole kind of set of possibilities where we can also provide the ability for people and users to collaborate in their AI session now fully privately and safely. I can share my AI session with a coworker and say like, hey, I just went through all these prompts with Gemini. I think it's got some great results, a cool report. Maybe you have some things to add to it and you want to kind of keep going with this kind of thread of interacting with the model. I can now share that with you just through like a magic link, basically. And it's a huge unlock of not only kind of enabling safe AI usage, but also AI, private and safe AI collaboration.
How do people get a hold of you and want to start working with TouchBrick?
Yeah, so touchbrick.com. That's probably the best place. Or on our website, we're across on all social media at TouchBrick, no matter what the social platform is, whether that's X. You can message me directly on Telegram on at TouchBrick as well if you want to get in touch. And so that's really all you have to remember is TouchBrick, and you can find us anywhere.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jason. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chad. It's a pleasure.